Well, good afternoon and welcome to the first edition of The Big Picture Live. I'm Ian Forsyth and with me today is Rudy McNeil, Director of the Inverness Campus Project. I'll come over to Rudy in a second or two, but if I just do the little logistics bit, you'll see on your right hand side of the screen there's a little chat box. If you've got any questions you want to put direct to Rudy, then just type them in there and hit the enter button, and our team in the office will make sure that they appear as if by magic on this screen in front of me, and we'll try and get through as many of your questions as we can during the 50 minutes broadcast. If we don't manage to get through all of them, we'll probably record some of them afterwards and you can have a watch again after the event, but I would encourage you, get in early, get your questions into the box. The whole idea is that we want to be as participative and inclusive as we possibly can. So, people haven't logged in to listen to me. We're really here to hear what's happening with probably one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting thing to happen in the Inverness area for quite a number of years, the Inverness campus. I suppose if we start from the High perspective, because High obviously are playing a key role in the development, why did High decide to get involved in the campus development, Rudy?
High got involved probably around 2006, 2007 with the campus development. Prior to that, High has been quite key in taking forward the University of the Highlands and Islands project since the early 90s. I suppose it was recognised within High that the real estate and the fabric of Inverness didn't quite match the provision of the other academic partners around the Highlands and Islands, and something had to be done about creating a good state-of-the-art facility for the local students and staff here. So we identified the opportunity probably around 2008 of acquiring some land near Inverness or adjacent to Inverness at Beechwood Farm, and from there we developed the concept of the campus, which is multi-stakeholder but really focused on giving UHI a very positive presence in Inverness.
Right, so higher education essentially, so why not just leave it to the, you mentioned the various partners in UHI, why not just leave it to those higher education partners?
Well, the project embraces much more, or will embrace much more than higher education. I should say that the reason High were involved very early and very keen for UHI to progress is to reverse what had been probably 200 years of migration, outward migration, by folk from the Highlands to other parts of the UK. There was 200 years of out-migration in terms of all age groups, but in the 1960s we managed to reverse that trend, and the population of the Highlands and Islands has been increasing in most areas, a couple of exceptions in the Western Isles and parts of Sutherland and Caithness, but by and large have been successful in reversing the out-migration. But in the age group between 18 and 25 or 18 and 30, there was still this outpouring of people, and bright people, away from the Highlands to access higher education. So we've tried to reverse that trend. We've supported UHI to create more higher education opportunities, and the campus is a key part of that. But it's not just about higher education, it's about business development, creating new businesses, and also creating civic and community facilities on the campus as well.
So it's much wider than just an education initiative, it's about the whole fabric.
It's about the whole fabric, and the kind of jargon is, we use the term knowledge economy, but it's about creating better opportunities for folk in the area, not just young folk, but largely focusing on young folk in the initial years, but creating high value jobs that will sustain people, give them good salaries and a good standard of living.
And who else is involved? Because it's not just High, obviously. Not
just High. I suppose I could band the kind of partners into two strands really. There are project partners at the moment, and the examples of that are Inverness College and UHI, who have got specific project themselves on the campus, and that's the new college building, which is making really good progress themselves in terms of procurement, and they hope to be on site themselves probably in about 12 months' time. There's a Scottish Agricultural College, which is currently based at Stratherick Road in Inverness, and they're in a Victorian building that isn't quite fit for modern purposes, so they'd like to relocate to a new purpose-built state-of-the-art building that will build on their business locally here. And their business entails education, training, but also research and veterinary services and consultancy, so they've got a range of knowledge economy type activities that they would locate onto the campus. We've got the Calman Trust and Alban Housing, are two social enterprises, and they've got a pretty unique project to develop a training hotel that will offer training opportunities for disadvantaged young folk in the area.
Right.
And we have the Centre for Health Science, which is building on a successful project that's currently located to the rear of Raigmore Hospital. In addition to these project partners, there are several others, what we term strategic partners. The Highland Council are closely involved, and they've been obviously supporting us and advising us in planning matters, but also in terms of community facilities that will help that area of Inverness, such as sports facilities, etc. We've got NHS Highland, who are adjacent to us in Raigmore Hospital, major facility, 3,000 people working in there and 1,800 patients. And we're seeing how we can be complementary to the activity that's happening on Raigmore Hospital site. And finally, we have, as a strategic partner, the Scottish Government, and we have John Swinney on board chairing the Partners Forum, which meets twice a year.
Okay. I think at the moment what we would like to do is just to cut over to the little video of the campus development, just to let people see what's happened so far. Okay, so that gives you a bit of an idea of what's been going on at the site for the campus now. The development is well underway. I suppose that takes us on to another question. That, you know, a development like that is going to cost a lot. There's been all sorts of figures bandied around, and it's significant public investment. What's the return for the public investment? I mean,
I think the return will be massive and will be seen over time. It's well recognised in economic development circles that regions that have universities do well, relatively well economically, and regions without universities don't do well. It seems to be a bit of a no-brainer from an economic development perspective. In pragmatic terms, what it will mean for the local area in terms of return is a supply of very high calibre graduates coming on stream over years and over time. And universities are institutions that stand the test of time, so Some of the more ancient universities have been around 600, 700, 800 years. So this isn't just about the next 3, 5, 10 years, although you'll see impact over that time, but it's about the next generations for the Highlands. But it's not just about students. It will attract high calibre staff to the area, the brightest brains to the area, and they will, come with their own ideas and inject their own enthusiasm into the area. The campus will also be a prime location for inward investment, so that we hope to attract some major inward investment opportunities to the area, creating high value jobs, and also be a focus for new business startup. So new business ideas will flow hopefully from the research that's undertaken on the university. And finally, a community asset. It will be a civic and community asset with state-of-the-art facilities to stage events and hold conferences, etc. So there'll be a range of benefits for the area over time.
Just picking up on that comment you made about, areas that have universities do better than areas that don't. I'm sure there's all sorts of scientific research have gone in that, we go. What's your hunch behind that? Why does that happen?
Well, if you look, it's quite interesting. You can look around the world and see the model, and countries around the world are jumping on the bandwagon. The Singapores of this world are buying in high-quality academics, research departments, etc. Australia's done it. There's loads of countries around the world doing it. But if you just look locally here, in relative economic terms, the Highlands hasn't done as well as the rest of Scotland. Mm-hmm. The rest of Scotland has had, depending on the way you count them, somewhere between 12 and 15 universities, going back for hundreds of years. And the Highlands has never had one up until 12 months ago. And in relative terms, our GVA per head of population, our economic wealth per head of population, has always lagged behind the rest of Scotland. And the universities core to that. If you've got higher level jobs coming through, higher skills levels coming through, you attract new businesses that pay higher wages, and that leads to a higher standard of living.
And has there been any research done that gives a kind of indication of the time span of that return beginning to show on the economy? Is it immediate or is it over? Yeah,
we've done various studies, and there will be an immediate return over the time. It's kind of hard to take the different time frames, but we see immediate benefit between 5 and 10 years, and we hope by the end of what we call phase 1, which is about 10 years away from now, to have 2,000 jobs on site that are associated with the campus, and they will by and large be high value, higher paying jobs. But over the 30-year time frame of the complete project, when we build out the whole of the 200 acres, we see 6,000 jobs being supported here in Inverness. So you can see yourself what a massive impact that would make on the economy.
And that will be fairly quick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There seems to be a wee bit of confusion as to what an Inverness campus actually is. I mean, some are calling it a college or a university campus, and others are saying it's a development for business. Can you explain the vision for the site at Beechwood?
Yeah, I mean, the confusion is probably because it's quite a confusing project in many ways, because it's so large and it embraces so many different parts. But essentially, the early part of it has been focused on the university sector and the higher education skills and extending the research base. And our promotion of the campus today has largely focused on that, because that's the bit we want to get up and running and get correct. However, as we move through time, and we're actually going through a development strategy phase at the moment, and we will have a new marketing plan very shortly, we'll be moving through to the business objectives to attracting the new business opportunities that we feel can come to this area. But then there's the community dimension as well. I've always stated that this is a facility, it's not, we're not encouraging elitism here. It's a facility for the local community to use. There will be community assets available locally, and we very much want to be part of the fabric of the Inverness community.
Right, okay, so it's wider than just,
it's wider than just
either of those two labels, really,
that's it? Right, and we'll be focusing on different segments of the market depending on what opportunities arise.
Right. Obviously, people watching saw the video in terms of what's developed so far. There's been a fair amount of work undertaken already. What's the sort of timetable for the development?
At the moment, we've set the ball rolling on the infrastructure part of it. So HIE is responsible, I should say HIE owns the land at the moment, and is responsible for taking it through the planning process, putting in the infrastructure, which is the roads and the services and utilities, electricity, all that kind of stuff. Some of it not particularly sexy and below the ground, so you don't see a lot of it. But by the end of this period of infrastructure, which will be roughly this time next year, There will be a very, very attractive landscape setting environment for all of the different component projects to take place. So our phase at the moment and our investment at the moment will conclude round about March, April of next year. The different component parts, Inverness College is going to be the first new building on the site, and they will start in about 12 months' time. So they're kind of tapering into, as we finish our work, they'll be coming on site to start their work. Theirs is a major facility. It's about 18,000 square metres, which is it's a pretty massive building. So that's got a 2-year construction time frame. So they'll start building, as I say, in about a year's time, and then be ready in 2 years after that. So they'll be open for business in the summer of 2015. And then the other project components are all trying to align themselves to that opening. So the Social Enterprise Hotel and the SEC and 1 or 2 other projects are trying to get up and running so that they're open around summer 2015 as well.
Right. And then beyond that, the other phases?
Beyond that, we are working on a number of ideas which are in the pipeline at the moment. Some of these ideas are very hot inquiries from the private sector. Some are our own ideas that we want to take forward. And these projects hopefully will come to fruition 2015, 16, 17, 18. So we're hoping there will be a good pipeline of projects coming through for about a 4 or 5 year period.
Right, so it will be a constant development.
Constant development programme, yeah.
Right. When do you think it will be absolutely at the point where you say, that's it, we've achieved what we set to achieve?
It's a very good question. We hope that when Inverness College opens in 2015 that people will come on and say, wow, this has been worth doing. There's facilities here that will add to what the Highlands and Islands has to offer, and will be an exciting place to locate, to work and to visit. But very shortly after that, I think 2 or 3 years after that, there will be a critical mass of activity with collaborations going on that people will then start to see the real benefit of this, generating knowledge exchange, knowledge transfer, and going through to commercialisation. So I don't think it'll be too long a period. I think between the next 5 and 10 years we'll really start to see things motor on.
Right, okay. I'm noticing on the screen here that we've got a question coming in from the audience, so it's only polite to take one of the audience's questions just now. It's a bit of a two-parter, it's a scene setter, so if you bear with me here. Alan MacLeod very kindly came in with a comment saying that Milan University recently announced that all their courses would be delivered in English, primarily in recognition of English as a world language and the need to attract wealthy students from countries like India and China. So he then goes on to say, given that most of these students currently go to the US, Canada and Australia, are there moves to attract foreign students to the Inverness campus?
Yes, there are moves to do that. I know that the University of Highlands and Islands is developing strategic partnerships and has been going on many visits over to India, for example, developing relationships with India and also with China. So we're looking at what the global market might be for students coming to this area. I think the bulk of our education or training will be in the English language, but there is an opportunity, I think, to increase the agenda for Gaelic. We have a minority language on our doorstep, a historical language that's one of the oldest in Europe, if not the oldest, that's still operational, something like 1500 years old. There's a very strong Gaelic college on Skye, and I'd be very keen to see if we can work with Salmo Rostig in Skye to see if we can grow the Gaelic provision locally here, whether it be Gaelic education but also Gaelic research and perhaps business opportunities as well.
Right, okay, so it's about widening things out. Just picking up on that point that Alan's made about, attracting foreign students. Is that something that's a primary focus of the campus project?
Well, one of the drawbacks we have at the moment in terms of attracting foreign students is there's nowhere for them to stay and live. There's nothing by way, certainly around Inverness, in terms of student accommodation. Some of the academic partners, such as Salmo Rostig and Luce Castle and 1 or 2 others, do have student accommodation, but it has been a bit of an issue for us in terms of attracting overseas and even students from England and elsewhere. So we've got a programme of activity to develop student accommodation. Private sector will be to the fore there. It was mooted recently in the local press about a potential new project down the city centre of Inverness, which would be great for bringing up that part of the town, which needs a bit of investment. But we also have planning permission for student facilities and student accommodation on the campus. So that's one of the work streams that I is leading on and will lead on over the next couple of years to have a very attractive proposition for overseas students.
And would it be fair to say that overseas students would bring additional benefits?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've lived in Inverness for 26 years now, and I've seen it grow from being a kind of almost like a local market town to being a regional player in a genuine sense, but also a Scottish player. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of people coming in to Inverness from other areas, bringing a richness and diversity with them. It's got much more of a cosmopolitan feel, so I think if you bring bright people from other areas with new cultures, it only lends to the tapestry of activity that we have here.
So economic benefits from that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
If we just pick up again on the scale of the project, I mean, some of the literature that I was reading said that there will be 35,000, and I'm checking this just to make sure I get the number right, 35,000 square feet of lettable property space in addition to the normal sort of campus buildings. What plans do you have in order to get that space actually built? Yeah,
well, getting space built now, the public sector budgets are very challenged, as we're all aware, for the economic circumstances that's facing the UK. So we are going to engage with the private sector to see if we can encourage the private sector to take the lead on property provision. But in addition to that, project partners that are coming to us, both the existing project partners but new inquiries that we have, are wanting to take the lead on certain projects themselves, and they're being very innovative in their fundraising and how they might access funds. And it's quite interesting, although you hear very often in the press, in the media, saying that the banks have no money, but institutions out there do have money, and they're looking for investments that are safe and aren't subject to the vagaries of stock market crashes and going up and down. And property is seen as a very straightforward investment and a safe investment. So we will be working with these bodies and partners to see if we can get advanced investment into the campus.
Okay, you've mentioned earlier, Calman Trust, Inverness College, Scottish Agricultural College. What other kind of organisations do you think will be attracted to the campus?
I think if we look out, I'm not sure if some of the viewers will be familiar with the Centre for Health Science project. But that's done in microcosm what we'd like to achieve in a larger scale on the campus. There are a couple of projects in there that are quite interesting. There's the Centre for Rural Health, which is a partnership with the University of Aberdeen and the University of the Highlands and Islands. Started off just over 10 years ago with a single post, a director post, supplemented by a bit of administration. And they now employ almost 30 researchers, most of them based in Inverness, but some out in the wider Highlands and Islands. So you can see there from a business growth point of view, that's been a resounding success. And who can tell where that's going to be in another 10 years. So that's the type of project that we're looking for. It needn't necessarily be, that's a university-based project, it needn't necessarily be an education or research body. It can be a business organisation that is keen to engage with the university sector or the research sector and take forward business ideas that will lead to business opportunities and growth.
Can you think of some examples where that sort of relationship has worked in the past, perhaps not in Inverness but further afield? Yeah,
well, again, locally here, LifeScan Scotland do engage with the Centre for Health Science. They've got a presence within the Centre for Health Science. And LifeScan, well, when it was set up as Inverness Medical in 1996, we considered, HIE considered that to be probably 50 jobs growing to about 150, 200. Well, they now have 1,100 people working here locally, which is the biggest private sector employer in the Highlands and Islands and the biggest medical device company in the UK. Couldn't have foreseen that going back then. And that's the type of activity we want to attract, not necessarily on that scale, but if we can get small, nimble organisations that are research focused or knowledge based focused, attracted to the area or established in the area, can we take them from maybe 10, 15 employees to 50, 60 employees? That's exactly the kind of organisation that we're trying to engage with.
So it's not just about bringing in a ready-made big employer then?
No, a lot of these things come from, well, all of these things actually come from individuals with bright ideas, so it can be one or two people. UHI have been successful in attracting some really nice and very intelligent academic staff with nice projects to take forward, and they want to build their departments up over time as a sign of success and for their own career development, and that's exactly the kind of people we'll be targeting.
Now, you mentioned the example of Centre for Health Sciences and LifeScan and how we're obviously successful in helping that to come together. What sorts of things are High doing in relation to the Inverness Campus project to attract these kinds of organisations in?
We've just completed a development strategy for the campus, which will be the blueprint of the types of development we're going to target over the next 5-10 years. On the back of that, we are currently developing a marketing strategy that will be ready within about 2 or 3 weeks. And that marketing strategy will kind of outline the activities we're going to take in the marketing front over the next couple of years or so. We also have partner organisations and ambassadors, if you like, for the project. Scottish Development International, who are based in Glasgow but undertake worldwide marketing activities on Scotland's behalf. We're engaging with them. Project partners can act as our ambassadors, such as NHS Highland, identifying UK-wide opportunities for investment in the health sector. We'll be engaging with them as well. So there's a range of different activities that we'll be undertaking over the next wee while to bring that activity to this area. Okay.
In terms of making sure, I think you used the word kind of collaboration in there, and often that's a word that's bandied around, and whether or not the reality lives up to the expectation of that. What will you be able to do from High's perspective to try and make sure that that collaboration between business and academia actually takes place and happens? Because clearly from what you've said, that's going to be central to the campus's success.
It is key to the success, and I think the campus will only be successful if people genuinely engage with one another and collaborate. And I think the first thing to say is that the organisations we've engaged with to date are predisposed to collaboration. That's why they become involved. They don't want to be in silos. They want to talk to like-minded organisations, like-minded people. So the 4 or 5 project partners we've got at the moment are already collaborating with one another and engaging with one another to see what efficiencies they can drive through and what ideas they can come up with together in any case. The design of the campus and the design of the buildings within the campus will lend itself to collaboration. And again, going back to the Centre for Health Science project, it was deliberately designed so there would be shared social spaces, so that people would bump into one another over a coffee or over lunch. But there's also shared meeting spaces where, on a business basis, you would naturally talk to people and engage with them. So the campus will have buildings that are designed particularly to encourage this interaction and get people hitting off one another. We also have a number of forums put together. We have the Partners Forum, which is chaired by John Swinney, which I mentioned earlier, and that's got all the key stakeholders represented on that, 9 or 10 of them, and meets twice a year to discuss strategic issues moving forward. Below that, we have a number of other groupings that encourage interaction on specific themes to take forward these collaborations. So I think it's kind of embedded within the framework of the project.
So building in a way that people essentially bump into each other.
It's pretty hard not to collaborate in this kind of environment. Yeah.
Right, that's interesting, because I think it's probably something that people don't really think of. You always think there's maybe some grand master plan, but actually it can come down to something as simple as you make people come together. It's quite interesting, the research we undertook, and we've gone round a lot of examples throughout the UK and 1 or 2 overseas, and you walk into a building and it's almost as if you can tell right away which ones are working, which ones aren't, and it usually comes down to good architecture, and you can walk into some of them and you get the buzz as soon as you walk in through the door, and you see people talking to one another, and you can tell they're from different organisations, even by the way they dress. But you just say, well, that one's working, and then you can go into another one and people are in their silos, and you know it's deadly silent, and you just think, not a lot of collaboration going on here. Yeah, and as you were saying that, I suppose, the number of times I've been in the Centre for Health Science, it very much feels like a building where people bump into. It's got that buzz about it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's really what you're looking to. That's what we're looking to do in a larger scale, and making sure that the buildings all address one another. And if you look at the design, and it'll be on the website, the buildings are co-located around a central parkland area, which is going to be high amenity and well landscaped, and encourage people just to ebb and flow across the different buildings. Okay. Can I just take a wee break for a second, just to have a quick word with the audience? Remember, we do want to have your questions coming in. We've got another few minutes to go, so please, if there's something you want to ask Rudy, submit your question now. It really is very straightforward. Type it in the little box, hit the enter button, and it will come through to me here. So I can only encourage you, send in some more questions. But coming back to one of the other areas, again, it's something that's been bandied around quite a lot, this enterprise area status.
which sounds all very impressive, and for most people it's like, well, does that mean there's maybe a wee bit of extra cash? Can you maybe tell us a wee bit more about it? 'Cause it must be more than just that.
Yeah, well, interestingly, it all happened quite quickly in terms of the campus. We only found out earlier this year we were getting enterprise area status. It will essentially, well, it started running from April the 1st this year, 2012, and will run for 5 years through to 2017. The benefits, it's at several levels. There are financial incentives. There is rates relief for eligible organisations, and within the campus, I should say, it's for life science organisations. So we got life science designation. So it's £55,000 per annum rates relief over the 5-year period. So that can gross up to quite a significant benefit to the organisations. There's also fast-track planning. So when organisations, if they make the decision to go to the campus and they're eligible, they go to the local authority and they should find that the red tape's all been removed and that they can turn around the project very quickly indeed, which is quite important for some of these mobile projects that go around. The campus by 2015 will have next generation broadband, so it will be state-of-the-art broadband facilities on the campus, which will be as good as you can find anywhere else in the UK and up there in terms of world provision. So, that's a real advantage as well to many types of organisation. And Skills Development Scotland will provide tailored support in terms of employment and training support for staff, so there's another incentive there. Scottish Development International will undertake international marketing activities and support international marketing activity for the organisations on enterprise area sites. And then on top of that, there's the usual financial incentives that would be available through Highlands and Isles Enterprise in any case. So there's a range of different benefits through that scheme.
Right. Is there somewhere people can go to find out more about that? Should they contact you?
There's a reasonable amount on websites, but in the first instance, if they want to contact me, I can talk them through the different benefits.
Right. I want to pick up on the life sciences theme in a second. But as you were talking there, I suddenly became aware we've got the Centre for Health Science, and now we're talking about life science. I'm probably not the only one that's maybe a little bit confused about the definition or the distinction. Can you maybe say a little bit more? Are they different? Is it just the same thing with different names?
I would say that life science is probably a broader category, and health science sits within that. And I suppose the strength that we have locally here is in health science because of, largely it stemmed from having Raigmore Hospital there with research active staff within Raigmore Hospital. But also University of Aberdeen and University of Stirling were established universities that had a strong health science presence in Inverness. And then more recently UHI have got involved in health science. So to date, largely our focus has been health science based, but we have the designation of life science, and therefore something perhaps from the veterinary side or animal kingdom coming in could be something that we could build on, but we don't have immediate strengths in this area on that at the moment. Whereas something like Dunstaffnage down in Oban does have strengths in that field.
Right. So coming back to then that life science terminology, what's the potential for that to develop in the campus and beyond?
Well, I would say it's massive. If you can go back 10-15 years, we didn't actually have much of a health science focus here at all. We did have Raigmore Hospital and the NHS, and that was good as it was. But in the last 15 years, and probably triggered by LifeScan Scotland moving in, we've managed to move apace and have a very significant, certainly health science focus around Inverness over a very short period of time. There are a number of smaller companies and interested parties sitting below that. Some of them are doing very well, some have got aspirations for growth. So we feel if we can grow the academic base, and we're working to do that, that the business base will follow or come out of that academic base. So I think the future for that sector is very bright.
Okay. Noticed a few more questions coming in from the audience, so let's move over to those just for a second. Stuart has asked about what the plans are for facilities management and maintenance of the campus. And he's gone on to say that it's because he thinks it would be beneficial for that to happen at an early stage so they could be involved in the development. But what are the plans for facilities management?
There's a thing called the Development Management Scheme, which is a kind of UK-wide owners association type structure. and we've been looking at that. In fact, it's the model that we are going to use, and we're told it's kind of the best model available at the moment to take forward facilities management. So the development management scheme will be a legal entity which will embrace all of the stakeholders, and they'll have a pro rata share in that company depending on how big their development is.
Right.
On day one, HIE will have the biggest stake because we own all the land. But from 2015, the college will be on board, so they'll take up a very proportionate scale of decision making and responsibility for that. That organisation will take forward facilities management, so things like site security, cutting of the grass, maintenance of buildings, all that kind of stuff will flow from that organisation. But it needn't necessarily be restricted to those kinds of activities. So this organisation, for example, might take forward some of the collaboration activity that HIE are currently leading on.
Right.
So that will develop and evolve over time.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Stuart. If not, feel free to add in a supplementary one. The next question, I suppose any big development like this, any kind of significant alterations to infrastructure will have an impact. And someone is asking the question here, the infrastructure surrounding the campus is already very busy. Can you expand on how you see things working once the campus is up and running?
Sure. We had a very extensive engagement with both the community and the local authority, and actually Transport Scotland, about the infrastructure around the campus to begin with. And it's been a bit of a challenging site in many ways, because although it's very well located to the growth of Inverness coming out from the east, it is bound by the railway and the A9 north-south. So we've had our challenges, but we've addressed that by investing quite heavily in road infrastructure to access the campus and enhance road provision around the campus. There are future plans to have new access over the railway going north-south, the main railway line to Perth. And in the short term, there's a railway bridge to the south of the site that we'll be opening up and investing in to have pedestrian and cycle access over to the retail park on the east. On the west side, we are investing quite heavily in a new bridge going over the A9, and that will be a pedestrian and cycle bridge. So on a number of fronts, we're investing in what we think are key strategic investments to make sure that the site is both accessible, but the traffic moving around the site is also able to flow. In addition to that, the ASA development invested in the new slip road coming off the A9, which accesses that local area, and that's improved traffic flows pretty tremendously from the A9 onto that area. And very shortly, the local authority, the Highland Council, is going to invest in improvements on the Culloden Road. So I would say there's about half a dozen investments either in hand or about to happen, so that by the time the campus opens for business 2015, we're very confident that it will work and will work well.
And the key thing, I suppose, there is that's all based on research and consultation then?
Absolutely. There's extensive studies undertaken by companies of repute to demonstrate that these enhancements will work. And I should say that it's entirely in our interest that they do work, because the last thing we want is a snarled up road system around the campus. But we are confident that they will work.
You don't want students being able to travel thousands of miles and then taking forever to travel the last 500 yards.
Getting stuck in a bus or whatever. Yeah. So
yeah. So it's a shared interest there.
Shared interest there, and there are future enhancements as well, in addition to the ones I've mentioned, that will take place.
Okay. We've got another question here from Fiona, and I will read this word for word because I don't want to lose any of the sense from this one. How will the digital age, the current investment and expansion of broadband to infrastructure support how education and business actively engage and deliver regionally, nationally and internationally? Quite a big question.
What a question that one is.
It was.
I'll do my best to answer it, but I'm far from being an expert on the technology front. My own organisation is involved in a project which is Broadband UK, and it's looking to roll out next generation broadband across the whole of the UK. But Highlands and Isles Enterprise is very much at the front end of the very long queue to get the investment in that. We're negotiating with a national company to develop the broadband, next generation broadband, across the whole of the Highlands and Islands. And the remit for that organisation is to develop benefit, not just for Inverness, which is one of the easier hits because of the population here and the critical mass that we have, but also to the far-flung areas of the Highlands, the more remote areas, the island communities, etc. That project is moving ahead at a rapid pace. It's moving in parallel with our own project, and that's why I mentioned 2015 earlier on, because we see the benefits from that project starting to flow from 2015, and because Inverness is very well based in terms of infrastructure at the moment, with optic fibre running nearby, etc., will be an easy hit, a relatively easy hit for that. In terms of moving through to how that technology is used, I'm not an expert on this front, but part of that Broadband UK application will be looking not only at the infrastructure and what's required to deliver it, but also at the more innovative delivery side of it. So there will be a programme of engagement with business, community, individuals, and the research and academic community to demonstrate what the benefits of this technology could bring. And that will be looking globally at, who's the best in the world, what are they doing, and how can we replicate that here. Finally, on that one, I would say that UHI itself is looking at its own, what they call pedagogy, which is a word I wasn't familiar with until recently, but it's basically the science of teaching and how to teach better and how to teach more innovatively, and they're starting to make inroads on that, so they'll be very much piggybacking on the work that we are doing.
I would imagine it would allow UHI's partner institutions to communicate more easily with the campus.
Absolutely, and I am told at the moment that UHI are actually one of the leading organisations in terms of doing that, but there's a long way to go yet, and I suppose the technology and the methodology is in its infancy, but UHI being so distributed in terms of 13 or 14 academic partners, but also 48 learning centres across the Highlands and Islands. So it's got a distributed network that I think is unrivalled across the planet. So it's in a very good position to take the lead on this and do some serious research and delivery methodology to make sure that this works.
Right, okay. I think there is one downside really, because in 2015 we'll be able to do a wrap-up webcast. It will be in full high definition because superfast broadband will have arrived. You and I are going to have to spend longer in makeup beforehand. What about the campus in terms of benefiting businesses that aren't going to be located on the site? Because there must be people out there who are not in life sciences, don't see themselves connected to academia in any way, don't see themselves fitting into any of the things that you've mentioned. Is there benefits for them as well?
Yeah, I would say there are, and they will develop over time. At the moment, I suppose the bulk of the benefit, the opportunities relate to the capital investment that HI's putting in at the moment, and the project partners will be putting in over the next 3-5 years. So if there's any organisations or individuals that think they can contribute to the supply chain of these organisations, then they will be receptive to that. For example, our own organisation that's undertaking the infrastructure works, Morgan Sindall, it was part of the process of engaging them that we said you need to demonstrate local benefit, you need to be opening your doors to the local supply chain. So there will be opportunities there to contact Morgan Sindall and others as they come on stream in terms of providing services to these organisations. The project partners themselves, such as the Training Hotel, Scottish Agricultural College, Inverness College and UHI, once they're up and operational, there will be a range of business opportunities for local companies to engage with these people. So I guess what to do is to try and understand what their projects are going to be, how these partner projects are going to be taken forward, and see what that means for your business.
Right. Now, I mean, you kind of mentioned the sort of construction phase just now, and Morgan Sindall. What we don't want to open is a floodgate, people suddenly contacting Morgan Sindall. How do people keep themselves up to date with where things are at and when it might be appropriate to start looking at opportunities?
I think the first place is to start with my own organisation. They put your inquiry into us. We've got as good a knowledge as anybody, I suppose, of the overview of the entire project. We'll have a look at it. If we think it's premature, we'll go back and say, interesting idea, don't think it's going to work for about 18 months, 2 years. So if they come to us in the first instance, we'll be able to filter them through or put them in the right channels.
Okay. Just one last little piece in terms of saying there's about 4 minutes left before we finish, so if you do have any final questions, if you want to send them in just now, we might just about be able to squeeze those in. But if I could just finish, I suppose, in terms of the questions we had discussed beforehand, for businesses who want to get involved, you kind of touched on that, it's keeping in touch with you. Is there anything else they can do? Where can they find out what's actually happening with the development? What stage it's at?
We've recently invested in the website, so our own website has got quite a lot of information if you delve into it, in terms of giving you a good feel for what the campus is about, what the individual projects are all about. Then if you contact the project partners, some of them have got some really good websites as well. But recourse to ourselves, and me and my team, we're very happy to go into the projects in a bit more detail. I mean, there'll be other opportunities coming up over time, and it's by far from a static project. You know, it changes very regularly. So keeping in touch with us, keeping in touch with the website, understand it as the project ebbs and flows, with new opportunities coming on stream that we haven't even thought of. We mentioned earlier, for example, the student accommodation. We will not be delivering that. It will be a third party that delivers that. So there's an investment opportunity there. If the private sector feels that they would want to get involved in that, there will be an opportunity coming to invest in that. Similarly, business incubation would like to take forward advanced business units. If anybody's interested in getting involved in that, we'd be very happy to talk to them.
Okay, so keep an eye out on the website. Just a final question then from the audience, from Moira, which is very much about environmental issues, and I think fits in with a lot of the things you're trying to do at the campus. What plans are there for the use of energy-saving devices, solar heating, and just generally addressing environmental issues in a project this size?
Okay, we have got we've designed into the master plan a capacity to take a district heating system powered by biomass, which could, in theory, deliver a heat solution to all of the partners on site. The difficulty of implementing that is the individual partners have a degree of autonomy and they've got their own ideas on life. However, all the project partners, so far, there's an element of public investment involved in each of the projects, and so they have to come up with what is termed BREEAM Excellent, which is essentially an excellent reading in terms of how they operate their building, their energy solutions, etc.
Right.
So it's a kind of two-way approach. We're encouraging individuality amongst the projects, but we're also saying, look, there's perhaps a bigger picture we can play here, and we'll facilitate that. We're investing in ducting around the campus so that these pipes can be installed if the project partners want to take advantage of it. So we're looking at all ways that we can reduce the carbon footprint of the campus, if you like.
Right, so a whole series of initiatives taken up
Yeah.
on both ends. Well, that brings us very close to our final time. We've almost just about finished bang on. It's just coming on to 10 to 1 here. Thanks very much for that, Rudy. That was really enlightening. I think brought people up to speed with what's going on. Maybe an argument that says we should do something again in a year or so's time and see where we've got to at that stage. So it really just remains for me to say thank you to everyone for joining us. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the Loch Ness Country House Hotel, who have hosted us today. Fantastic venue, particularly when the sun's shining outside. The views are superb. The next Big Picture Live will be on the 19th of June with Stuart Black, who's Director of Planning and Development at Highland Council. And he'll be talking about his vision for 2025, which is a little bit away, but it's amazing how quickly those things come round. And we're also really pleased to be able to announce today that after a short break during the summer, we won't do anything during the school holidays, but on the 28th of August, Alistair Kennedy of Global will be talking to us about the exciting developments that are taking place in Nig. It really feels as though the Highlands is a place with a buzz just now. The campus and Nig and all the other things that are going along. We'll be sending out an email to everyone who registered for this one, giving you further details of both of those events as soon as this event finishes. And if you want to book your place on those, then just reply quickly.